Good morning. We will call this meeting to order. First, let's call the roll.
Good morning. Bill Price.
Here.
Dan Keating.
Here.
Bob Ross. Bill Flanagan.
Here.
Catherine Franks.
Here.
General Lee Baxter.
Here.
Superintendent Hoffmeister.
Here. And do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do.
And did we comply with the Open Meetings Act? Thank you. All right. Well, board members, let's begin and open this meeting with a pledge of allegiance, a salute to the Oklahoma flag, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of Oklahoma. Its symbols of peace unite all people. Thank you. Please be seated. All right. Well, welcome, honorable board members. It's great to see you. I know this is an exciting time of year, and we have weather that feels a little bit like the holidays, so we aren't going to complain. There's no ice on the road today, and I hear it's going to get into the 60s, so maybe? I don't know. That's what my daughter told me, so I don't know if that's really happening. Maybe that's wishful thinking. I want to, before we get started, to welcome, it looks like I have two first-year school superintendents who are with us. From Barnsdall, Jeff Lay. Jeff, would you stand? There you are. Thank you. And also from Crescent, Bart Watkins. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Did I miss someone that may not have signed in? Okay, very good. Well, we have a number of guests with us, and we're looking forward to welcoming some of you in a little bit later in the agenda. Future leaders that, well, actually leaders today who have been a part of leadership training and who have invested in the kids here in Oklahoma, and we know are setting a wonderful culture for their school buildings. So we'll visit with them in just a moment. First, though, I want to draw your attention to two people within the agency. And one of them has been a new hire, and another has been with us probably maybe one of the longest serving in the agency. So we're going to start with Terry Grissom. And Terry is our Employee of the Month, and I have to tell you, she's quite the MVP right now. And so, Terry, would you stand and let me share a little bit of the good news and why you were recognized and chosen as the Employee of the Month this year. I'm sorry, this month. Terry has, in fact, let me just get my information just right. All right, so Terry began working for the department in March. And Terry has worked on or has written a total of 8 grants. All of them have been awarded except for 2 that are still pending. So I'm telling you, we got our own MVP right here. Okay? And Terry has brought to the state of Oklahoma in excess of $29 million since March. So that is impressive and worth another clap. Thank you. Terry was nominated by Dr. Robin Miller, and here's what Dr. Miller had to say about Terry. I attribute success of our recently awarded grants to Terry's expertise and experience in designing strong applications. Her keen understanding of the agency's strategic plan is a key element to this success. Terry's ability to interact with all staff in understanding needs is truly the gift this agency has received. And we often now go to Terry and say, Terry, we need to do this. And she goes and searches for something that might fit that or finds a funder who would be willing to help with us, especially at a time where resources are extra thin. And we need that champion to go out and find those things. So we appreciate you. And I'm going to want to award you with this little token of our appreciation. Thank you very much, Terry. And we appreciate you. All righty. And that doesn't mean that we should be cut by 29 million, by the way. Okay.
Don't give it to the health department.
Yeah, don't
Yes.
give it to Preston.
That is not a tweetable thing either. Okay. Okay, no, I apologize. Just joking here. Okay. So now, wishing I could undo that. So recognizing now a very long-serving public employee, Marty Fulk. And my attorney is blushing. Okay. Marty Fulk has been serving 40 years. Marty, you got to come on up here and stand right up here. Okay, so usually, I'm going to talk about you.
Oh.
Yeah. Usually, Marty is the one, I just want you standing next to me while I talk about you. Marty is the one that is making certain we can all be heard or seen, or that all of the equipment that is behind the scenes is working. That's just during board meetings. There's so much more that Marty does during the rest of the month and throughout the day. But let me just tell you, Marty has served 40 years. He began his service to the state and the State Department of Education in December 1997.
77.
Oh, whoa, my eyes did something. Okay, 1977. We will not require a show of hands of who is alive at that time. Okay,
I know there were some in here that were not,
That's right.
and no names will be
Right,
mentioned.
right. Prior to the employment with the State Department of Education beginning in May of 1972, while attending Oklahoma State University, Marty worked for the Stillwater Public Schools. The nature of his position in Stillwater allowed him to meet and work very closely with the State Department of Education on many projects. So December 1977, Marty started as the information representative here at the department. In February 1991, he was given the title Director of Media Production. Marty has worked for 6 state superintendents and has reported to 15 different supervisors. So this guy knows how to work with a lot of people, and he sat in a lot of board meetings, and probably we should all talk to him about, he could write a book. Let's just, I think that goes without saying. He has been housed in the same office suite with the same phone number since the beginning. So we want to thank you first and give you a 40-year pin from the state of Oklahoma, and from, this is actually from, I believe, Governor Fallon, yes, for your 40 years of service. Congratulations, job well
Good,
done.
thank you.
And I would love to stand and take a picture with you.
Here we go.
Okay,
Everybody like
here we go.
looking at it.
You're amazing. Thank you. You'll hear a little more about some of his creative services and work when we have a little showing in a few minutes from our Elevate series. So I'll let the...
My real job.
Would you do us the honor of just addressing us? And I think I would love, you've listened for a long time, if there's any words you would like to give.
We don't have time here today. Mr. Clark's got a lot on y'all's agenda. I will say this, I've been looking back and thinking about, sometimes I unfortunately have a very good memory, but I think back to that morning on December 1st, 1977. I had moved from Stillwater to Oklahoma City the Thanksgiving weekend prior. I worked for 3 days in Stillwater and started here on that Thursday, the 1st. I got up that morning, was getting ready, I looked in the mirror, and I said to myself out loud, what have I done? However, looking back now 40 years from that time, I did the right thing. I have no qualms about coming down here and enjoy coming here every single day. Thank you.
Well, thank you so very much. We are grateful for that decision. So, board members, let me give you an update on a few things that have happened since the last time I saw you. First of all, the latest enrollment figures were released last week. Enrollment is up yet again, more than 1,000 students across the state. A total of 694,816 students were enrolled in pre-K kindergarten through 12th grade at the start of the school year. That's an increase of 1,106 over our 2016 total. The top 3 largest school districts are Oklahoma City, Tulsa, and Edmond. Edmond had the greatest year-to-year growth, increasing 2% over last year. Statewide student population percentages shifted slightly this year. Most significantly, the percentage of white students dipped below 50% for the second year in a row to 48.85% compared to 49.36% in 2016. The number of Native American students decreased again this year, while the percentage of Hispanic students and students of 2 or more ethnicities continued to increase. I also had an opportunity to visit some school districts this past month. I spent a day in Durant visiting the Robert E. Lee Early Childhood Center. Very, very exciting experience there. They have made a shift to the entire school district in one preschool, and that allows them to have a very strong footing with both curriculum and instruction, but also any kind of services that need to be provided for students with potential needs, special education needs. All of that can be housed in one place. What was of particular interest for me was just the work the community had done around play. And part of the play had to do with they have 2 indoor playgrounds. One was all about careers and those particular career fields in the community, and they incorporated that with play. It made me think of Dr. Koss and the work we're doing, that we want to continue that passion of, you know, what they might want to be when they grow up, and it was pretty actually adorable. And I did go down a very large slide with lots of children, so it was really neat. Later in the day, I drove to Caney and was able to see their 21st Century Grant After School program in action. These are students who are involved in robotics, also in entrepreneurial opportunities. It's a very low socioeconomic conditions with a high percentage. That's what I'm trying to say. And the students moved from having very low performance on their state assessments, and you remember that we've reset all of this year, and they had phenomenal outcomes for students, and it all came from an effort to study the data and to have a real commitment to teaching the academic standards. It was just truly incredible to get to meet with them and their students and some of the work that they're doing after school, as well to engage students and give them opportunities that they wouldn't have otherwise. I was also in Moore High School for the Hour of Code that was being done nationwide. And I think we have some exciting news to share with you, not at this board meeting, but it'll be coming up next, I think, around computer science standards and how Oklahoma is leading in this effort. We'll be one of the first states to have computer science standards grade level by grade level. And many states do not even have computer science standards. So this was an important December 5th day to focus on the importance of coding and how the jobs of the future will require that. I was also in Warner, and Warner is just a really incredible school in southeastern Oklahoma. They have over 70% free and reduced lunch. They have such a shift in the culture that it is very pronounced, and it has contributed to very high academic outcomes. In most cases, they were in the top 1 to 10% of the state on the brand new test scores. And they had studied a lot on how that happened, and they were not surprised at all with how strong their students had performed, because they had been preparing for teaching standards and working through some of the professional development that's needed for, in fact, we're doing that on a week-by-week basis with their teachers. It's just phenomenal. I was really impressed with this school. So many great examples of schools that are doing great things, and they are doing it in a way that seems like miracles, you know, Monday through Friday. We know that this commitment is really 24/7, 7 days a week. Also, I want to mention that we've recorded new batch of Ed Talks, and those were just released on Oklahoma City's 8th grade teacher, Dr. Christina Kirk, was one who was featured. These are a time where 15 educators have come together to record a 5 to 6 minute message, just like a TED Talk. And it's about education. We've had over 100,000 views. And these are now teachers that are asking, can I participate? And they are sharing stories about the children in their classrooms, about professional development, about what it is like, and they're also inspiring other educators, which is really exciting. And we have a live audience during that time. You're invited to attend if you ever would like to when we do our next taping. And then one of the big announcements, we had a national honor that occurred just, I think, last week. Maybe the week before. And that was the Milken Education Award winner. Lowell Milken himself came and gave that award, $25,000 to Debrion Davis, the principal from Edmond North High School. She was one of 44 honorees across the country. It was a surprise to the state and a surprise to her. And we were thrilled to be able to award this and be present during that. She will be at the January board meeting, so you will be able to hear a little more about that. But that is really a high honor, and we are thrilled that Oklahoma had a teacher selected 2 years in a row, and that doesn't always happen. All right, so that I think does it for my announcements. Again, I'm just grateful for you being here, and we will get started with our first order of business, which is with our first action item, which is 4A, discussion and possible action on the minutes of the November 16th regular board meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, motion to approve and second. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, please call the roll.
General Baxter?
Yes.
Ms. Franks?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mr. Keating?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Superintendent Hoffmeister?
Yes. All right. Thank you. Motion carries. And now, actually, I'd like to call Dina Silk to come to the podium and present for the board something that we also have as an opportunity. Are you going to explain a little bit about it? Okay. Thank you.
Good morning, honorable
thank
members
you.
of the board. Thank you, Superintendent Hoffmeister. From time to time, we like to showcase some of the stories that we produce here at the State Department of Education. Marty Folk is the brains behind a lot of these stories, so I enjoy working with Marty for the past almost 3 years now. The Elevate series is something near and dear to me. It is a way that we get to highlight the positive, innovative, inspiring things going on out in these school districts, things that the news usually doesn't cover. We like to be able to do that. So this story you're about to see takes us to Chattanooga, where they are highlighting the need for more recess time, something that a lot of you may agree with. So take a look.
At Chattanooga Public Schools, this is what learning is all about.
We run and we play with the sand boys. We usually play tag and hide and go seek.
For these students, recess comes around not once a day,
We get 4.
4 15-minute recesses every day.
It gives us more exercise. I feel like I've gotten all my wiggles out.
And without those wiggles to distract in the classroom, studies show students are able to learn more and actually retain what they've learned.
Sitting in the classroom for 2 hours at a time or whatever is We can't do that as adults, and I don't know why we would expect the kids to do that.
Superintendent Jerry Brown signed up his district to take part in a study called the LINK Project.
which is Let's Inspire Innovation in Kids.
Dr. Debbie Ray is the Associate Dean of Research at Texas Christian University and is in year 2 of a 3-year study with Chattanooga to see how extra recess time affects mental and physical health and academic performance.
What we found with Chattanooga is the same we found in the other schools. In 1 year's time, they dropped from around 52–53% off-task behaviors down to somewhere between 28 and 30% off-task behaviors, depending on the grade level.
Selena Hampton came to teach at Chattanooga from a nearby school district and was accustomed to 1 10-minute recess a day. When she learned her students would have a combined full hour of recess every day, she, along with other teachers, was concerned.
Not sure if I would be able to accomplish everything, particularly being in a 3rd grade testing grade, yet I've had no problem.
Out there on the playground, you know, there's not really rules. They go up the slider, they go down the slider, they meet in the middle, and they try to figure it out. There's no tattletelling anymore because there's not a rule. Oh, well, they broke the rule. They are just figuring it out.
We went through a year of training. Dr. Ray is very specific about how, their teachers are taught how to do recess, how to do the transitions from recess in.
There's no downtime. You go back in the classroom, they're on task.
Dr. Ray developed the LINK project after visiting Finland, where schools consistently rank among the best in the world. The study is currently underway in 20 schools. Chattanooga is the only school in Oklahoma. And while it is a small rural school, the outcomes are the same.
It doesn't matter what school, it doesn't matter socioeconomic, doesn't matter what grade level, doesn't matter anything. Race, doesn't matter. It's affecting all of these kids in a very positive way.
When they know that, okay, we can go in here and be on task for 45, 50 minutes, and we get to go out and play, and we reset our brain, and then we come back, and they come back and they're immediately ready to work. We feel like it's been very beneficial, and my feeling is everyone should do it.
And we were there for a good part of the day. Superintendent Hoffmeister was there as well and got to see it in action. It really was neat to see how organized everything was. Like, there really was very little downtime. They were just in, go out to recess, come in, get right back to work. So, and I know, Mr. Price, you actually went to Finland.
Yeah.
So
And
you know all about
I
it.
saw the same philosophy, and it seemed to really work extremely well, especially on young kids.
Yes. So I know we have a lot of visitors, principals, superintendents. If you guys know of anything going on in your schools, shoot me an email, let me know, because we're always looking to highlight fun, inspiring, innovative things going on in your schools. So thank you.
We love the research around this.
Yes.
That's the other piece that is going to help us inform practice in the future. So I'm sorry, General Baxter.
What's the distribution on this? And where does this get shown?
We push these out on our social media. So on our Facebook, it has almost 40,000 views.
Just on this,
Just on
just this one.
Just this one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We put them on our website, that type of thing, and then we give them to the schools so they can use it however they wish.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
What about the schools that went to 4-day weeks? Have we seen any results or any indications that goes just the opposite of what Finland did and the success here? So have we started looking at that?
We're very interested in that. We're very interested in how that affects student outcomes and have begun a study around that with our brand new test results. There's not really going to be a real strong correlation, obviously, with past results because this is actually quite new for a large-scale implementation of a 4-day week schedule. But we're very interested in looking at our disaggregated information about students with poverty, students that are needing special education services, and how their performance is either enhanced or hindered. But yes, that's coming. That's coming. Did you have anything else?
No, it's quite a different concept because it's having breaks.
That's right.
Because kids can't concentrate much beyond 40 minutes or an hour or whatever without some kind of break.
Yeah.
And it's quite different than a 4-day.
Oh, yeah.
You know, in fact, it would mitigate toward a 5-day week that had a lot of breaks.
Yes, thank you for that clarification. And I'm not sure if that was kind of what you were trying to point out. That was it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it is something, too, that is coupled with character training that is part of a curriculum that goes with the particular study. And so there's discussion as you're moving in and out these transition periods, which is also something that they believe has enhanced some of the culture at the school, where they've seen a reduction in bullying. And by the way, kids are told and families are told to, when it rains, they're going out unless there's lightning, to bring little rain boots. And they have little areas that intentionally flood and make puddles. And they also have mounds of dirt that by the end of the year should be fully excavated. So it's pretty neat. They also have other rules: no digital devices, even teachers, on the playground, and no organized sports, so they don't introduce a soccer ball with the rules that come with that. Then it's free play, and they make up their games, which is pretty neat. So it's very creative. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks for your attention during that. And we are excited to follow the study, and we are glad Oklahoma has one school that's able to participate in this as well. All right. So, board members, we have no public comment today. No one signed up. And so that moves us to our consent docket. Do you know anything about the number of even though we didn't have a board meeting in November?
Move approval of the consent docket.
All right, very good. We have a motion to approve and a second. There are 36 emergency certified teachers included.
I want to just make a comment on this before we approve it. And I really started triggering on this after Mr. Flanagan started talking about teacher qualification and the fact that we have a very high percentage of qualified teachers. But if you look at this in any kind of detail, you know, Ardmore needed a school counselor, so they hire a person with a master's degree in counseling, and we need to give them a certificate. You know, a school counselor in Broken Arrow, and they hire someone with a degree in human resources. A school counselor in Edmond, master's degree in school counseling, bachelor's degree in math for intermediate mathematics, master's degree in elementary education for elementary education, bachelor's degree in art for art, master's degree in counseling for school counselor, bachelor's degree in kinesiology for Phi Ed. And so, you could argue that what this is really about is classroom management. It's not not nearly as much about qualifications in the subject matter expertise, which ought to be probably where our primary concern is. So this may not be just as catastrophic as sometimes it seems, or that the media plays it to be. Because when you've got people with these kinds of academic qualifications, you know, I think they can glean or work their way through to classroom management, but we're not losing much by granting these.
We are grateful for the people that have been recruited to fill positions where there are no applicants that are qualified, and our hope is to strengthen that pipeline so that we have people who want to teach in Oklahoma and are prepared on day one. But yes, I agree. We have some really, really phenomenal people who have stepped forward to be a part of this education system that we want to be as strong as possible. I appreciate your comments. All right. So we have any other discussion or any questions? Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Keating?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Ms. Franks?
Yes.
General Baxter?
Yes.
Superintendent Hoffmeister?
Yes. Yes, thank you. Motion carries. Okay, then. Now, Dr. Miller, would you please come, and you have two things to go over with us. One involves a lot of people in the room, so.
Thank you, Superintendent Hoffmeister and honorable members of the board. This report is a look back at calendar year 2017, sort of where we've been and where we are headed. As a reminder, all of Oklahoma's alternative education programs must follow these 17 research-based components found in Oklahoma statute. So this slide having the first 8 and the next slide the rest of those 17 components. Many of Oklahoma alternative education programs offer unique features in adhering to these 17 components. Features such as flexible scheduling, goal setting with family involvement, career skills training, and innovative instructional techniques, just to name a few. This at-risk definition, currently in rural, helps us identify students who may need placement in alternative education. In other words, students may align with one or more of the indicators listed here in the definition. So you're seeing from academic deficiency to family issues to mental health issues, for example. As the nation's education law, ESSA, has allowed states opportunity and flexibility to identify and meet the needs of all students, the American Youth Policy Forum invited an Oklahoma team to study successful programs in Denver, Colorado. So in February, we took a team of 6 individuals, 3 representing high-quality alternative education programs here in Oklahoma, and 3 from the State Department of Education. The goal was to meet with other states to study successful alternative education programming. Those states included Kentucky, Ohio, Oregon, Washington, Colorado, and Washington, D.C. We came back from that study tour, and it became very apparent that we needed to establish an advisory council or committee for alternative education, so an extension from that group of 6, basically. So we did establish an alternative education advisory committee made up of 56 members, representatives from school districts, community, legislators, as well as those of us from the State Department of Education. You're seeing the goals of those of the committee itself. What we really found in Colorado is that we actually have programs similar to Colorado, but not consistent in opportunity across our state. So this advisory is forming recommendations centered on meeting the needs of at-risk learners, setting district goals and accomplishing those goals, and then enhancing funding and accountability paths. So at this time, I would like to hand off to our Director of Alternative Education, Jennifer Wilkinson, who will share more detailed information.
Good morning, Superintendent Hoffmeister, honorable members of the board. What this screen is going to show you at this time is a snapshot summary of what our alternative education programs last school year. So this is the 2016-2017 school year. There were 280 alternative education programs across the state, serving 11,412 students in these programs. As a highlight, I just want to mention that of those seniors that they served, they had a 93% graduation rate. So of those students that were on track to drop out, they were able to enter one of these 280 programs and get back on track and graduated. Wow. But just several clarifying as you look at this data, I just want to define what a non-senior is. So a non-senior is a student that on the first day of school in August was not classified credit-wise as being a senior. So they could have already been in the program, could have been gaining credits in an alternative ed program the year before and really close, but not quite there. So those non-seniors just did not have enough credits on the first day of school to be considered a senior. On track to graduate in 4 years is in alignment with our state definition for your four-year graduation cohort. where on track to graduate by 21 years of age are those students that are coming back as fifth-year seniors and beyond. And then because absences are one of the main reasons that students find themselves in an alternative ed program, just for data tracking purposes, we look at excessive absences as 10 or more in a semester. And so just wanted you guys to have those pointed out and clarified.
So I have a question. So then does that mean that of those that had more absences, it was 20% of the students in?
Yes.
So almost like 79% actually had successful attendance. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, good.
And also the non-seniors that graduated, if they were not, didn't have enough credits to be classified as a senior, yet they graduated, so they were actually doing more work.
Correct. Yeah. Most of my alternative education programs have to be accelerated programs for one reason or another based on this state definition. They have fallen behind. And so this program looks at a holistic approach to serving these students, meeting those basic life needs, food, shelter, clothing, mental health services, as well as your academic services. And we have found that both of those married together will make a student more successful.
Very good.
What was the primary cause of those non-seniors catching up? Could you identify anything specifically that made they weren't scheduled to graduate, but they graduated, so they did 100 plus
right
in a year?
Correct.
So do we identify anything specifically that attributed to that, or?
We attribute it to the 17 components that are required. They have to have counseling component where they meet with either a mental health practitioner or a school counselor every 2 years. They have to have a life skills curriculum in it, helping them to meet those basic needs and those coping skills. They have to have an arts component to it because we find that's very therapeutic while they're moving through their academic curriculum. And so we feel those 17 components and the holistic approach to working with this student, and not just an academic approach, helps make those students more successful.
Did they have an individual education plan?
They do. It was originally in the law 20 years ago when the law rolled out. So each one of their academic paths is 100% geared to their hopes, dreams, wants, and needs.
What's the profile of a alternative education student? Give me an idea. Does it break down into a number of different groups, or what's, you know, it just says at risk.
Right.
That could encompass all kinds of different problems.
Exactly. It does encompass a wide variety. And so that could be simply a student that is pregnant or parenting. That could be a student that is the sole provider in their household, and so they need a non-traditional path to graduation. That could be a student that is dealing with mental or physical issues, or has a parent that is dealing with mental or physical issues. But what makes alternative education, in my opinion, work after spending 7 years in alternative ed before being in this job is that it works because not one student has the same story coming together, but that's also what bonds them together, is that each one of their stories is very different, very unique, but the traditional setting was not working for them. And so they come into this program and they really bond and support each other within themselves, and that's what makes it very successful.
And, you know, it is really totally different from disruptive students or students that are difficult in the classroom.
Correct. This is a partnership between your parent guardian, the student, and the school district. There are other states that consider alternative ed to be their punitive or their suspension path. We did not, as a state, decide to do that back in the 90s, and we have had better research, better success, because it is a partnership. They're choosing to go here. They choose that. They acknowledge that they are have some struggles and some areas that they need to work on, and so that just acknowledgement makes them more successful because they don't feel like they've been dumped somewhere in a sense.
Well, I totally agree that it should not be in the same grouping.
Right.
But there should be something for those students also. Is there something, is there a classification of some kind for those students?
That is decided at the local level. I do have several school districts that do have programs already established. So when you go into like Norman, for example, they have their classification of alternative ed as Dimensions Academy, but there are approximately 6 different programs serving very specific students. And so, but that right now is being decided at the local level.
I might suggest that there might be a different category. I'm just basing it on the remembrance of the biggest complaint, at least way back there, of the Oklahoma City School District was of the teachers was disruptive students, and we need to have some different type of program that's geared toward those students.
And that is absolutely something that I think would work really well in the committee, and that we will get back to that committee of 56 and see how we can, as we're working through possible recommendations, make that a recommendation.
And it's good to have the state have some, some idea of what works in different communities that can help local communities deal with that problem, because that hinders educational progress in a lot of school districts.
Yes, it does. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. This next slide is jump to this current school year, 2017-2018. And I just wanted to, we have 298 alternative education programs across the state this year. And again, for some clarification, a full-time program runs a schedule more consistent to a traditional school, where a part-time program runs a program that goes the 4 hours and 12 minutes 5 days a week, or the 756 hours in a school year. And so the statute allows school districts the flexibility to work with each of their students. And so an at-risk student may have the opportunity to go 70% of a traditional day. And so that's what those 2 clarifying pieces are. Any questions? Okay. These next 5 slides is information that has been self-reported by the school districts as mandated by statute. And this is looking at last school year, 2016-2017. And this information is not just about alternative education students, but all students in the state of Oklahoma. This slide shows the number of students that were not promoted to the next grade level in your middle school grades. And so as you can see, there are 285 6th graders out of 47,716 6th graders that were not promoted to the 7th grade. 451 7th graders out of 49,379 7th graders that were not promoted to the 8th grade, and 513 8th graders that were not promoted to the 9th grade out of 49,221 students.
How do you explain the huge variance between male and female?
That's easy.
It's all the way through.
We are, in our Alternative Education Committee, we are looking at some of those patterns and trends, but I don't have anything specific for you at this time, but we are looking at those trends. Yes?
Is alternative education only in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, or can you be in the 3rd grade?
Some of my school districts, again, it's a local decision, have implemented elementary programs, but in state statute, it does mandate elementary programs in urban districts if funds are provided. But I do have both my urban districts and several of our larger suburban districts that have implemented elementary programs. This slide again shows you those students not achieving the next classification in high school. So that is 2,157 ninth graders that did not achieve sophomore classification out of 51,240 ninth grade students. 1,778 sophomores that did not achieve junior classification out of 48,980 students, and 1,285 juniors that did not achieve senior classification out of 46,092 students. And then this slide is showing you our seniors. So 1,640 seniors did not achieve graduation based on credit deficiency out of 42,654 students. This only represents our credit deficiency, not our total dropout population. Then this slide shows the number of students who were suspended out of school for any period of time during last school year.
I have a question. Does this refer to only those in alternative education numbers?
No, this
or
is total
statewide?
population,
Okay.
total student population in the state of Oklahoma.
Thank you.
And just to clarify, this is the number of students that were suspended for any amount of time.
Okay, so you said any amount of time. It could be a 1 to 3
1 day, 3 days, semester, any amount of time. And then this is the number of in-school suspensions by grade. And this is the number of suspensions or incidences, not the number of students. So that's where those two slides, when we collect this information, two different ways. So. And remember, the in-school suspension is where a student is serving their punishment within the school day, within the school building, but their movement and interaction may be limited, where an out-of-school student is completely removed from the school environment. Okay.
Which is part of what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. And then professional development. As our office is starting, we've started to implement some of the recommendations from the committee. We are moving the alternative education office from more of a monitoring and compliance office to more of a professional development and resource for school districts. And so we wanted to just inform you that these are some of the professional development opportunities that alternative education programs have had. The first 3 bullets have already been offered this first semester. And then in the second semester, we have partnered with other state agencies to offer professional development in trauma-informed practices, restorative justice approaches, so that we better support our students in state custody, child abuse, and then as our risk and protective factors with mental health and substance abuse.
Can you give an example of a restorative justice?
Restorative justice is
For a student,
For a
basically
student.
what it is, but how is it used here?
So a personal experience, we had a underage sex offender transition home that fell within my boundaries, and so they came to the Alternative Education Center, and so we helped transition them and worked closely with their parole officer, and so that partnership allowed them to transition more smoothly and appropriately and back into the everyday setting of a school. And then we were able to then transition them into a more traditional setting. But it was one of those transition approaches.
And what is OJA?
It's your underage offender.
Juvenile affairs.
Juvenile
Office
affairs.
of Juvenile
Mhm.
Affairs. So this is used for someone who has gone through the court
System, yes.
Okay.
And this is really where we see the manifestation of some of the statistics we talk about, where and how it impacts kids. That Oklahoma being ranked 3rd highest in incidence of child abuse and neglect in the country. What is just staggering. But there is a factor that we must address for the children so that they are able to have you know, the needs met that require trauma-informed practices. And then you can even see how there's a thread through here about attendance and chronic absenteeism. It is a different way of thinking. It is now more individualized to ask the question of, or schools ask the question, why is this child chronically absent? Are they bullied? Are they in need of transportation because they have become suddenly homeless? Are they in foster systems where we are seeing lots of high mobility, where kids are moving due to those particular incidents of child abuse or neglect and trauma? And so this is something that all works together. As you will then recall that in our new school accountability system, the non-academic indicator that is required of all states can be chosen, and our choice was to measure chronic absenteeism of all schools, because it is an early indicator of many things and puts that focus on the individual student.
And then just my last piece is that I want to introduce you to Missy Korn. She is our new alternative education specialist. And she goes out every day, all day, and visits the part of the 298 programs that we have this year to help provide resources and support. She is coming to us from Blackwell Public Schools, where she was their director of alternative education for 17 years and was also their high school counselor. So we know we are excited that she is here and excited for what the future holds for alternative education and our at-risk kids. And so thank you so much for your time. Are there any other questions?
What percentage of our overall budget goes to alternative education?
Percentage?
It's ranged from about $7 to $10 million a year.
And then we requested that be doubled or moved. Yeah, we've actually, this is a high priority area that had been slashed in the past, and we're trying to provide more funds there. Okay. Thank you. All right, Dr. Miller.
Okay, we are so very fortunate that a grant from the Southern Regional Education Board has helped to fund a very successful leadership training, specifically for those who are entry-level principals or aspiring principals. So today we are recognizing those who partnered and participated in Cohort 1, which was hosted in the Oklahoma City metropolitan area, and it concluded in October of this year, 2017. Making these presentations is Robin Anderson, who was hired here at the agency as Director of Special Projects and Educator Effectiveness, but is now Director of SIG in our Office of School Support and Improvement.
And Dr. Miller, will you be able to share a kind of a contrast between the NISL program with our Lead to Succeed and that kind of commitment, and then what we see with Moving Up?
Sure. So as you recall, board members, we have, and this is supported out of our own budget, a principal leadership program that we call Lead to Succeed, and it is using the NISL, National Institute for School Leadership curriculum. It's primarily for those who are already in principal role, and maybe assistant principal as well. For those who are wanting to become change agents, that's the language of the NISL curriculum actually, and for those who are willing to use their role in study of a specific action learning project and go back into the district after the training and become that change agent. So it's a different profile of a participant from this one that Robin will describe Moving Up. And it's also different in its support is out of our own budget, and we're in our third cohort of Lead to Succeed, whereas, as I mentioned, Moving Up, being recognized today, is supported out of a grant.
Okay, very good. And the one is a 15-month, is it 15, 13, 15?
It was 15 months.
15-month program, too, where it's a deep dive into data and developing a theory of action. And then we also know that we needed to have something that would provide immediate takeaway for our assistant principals and some principals to have for immediate return into their buildings and equip them. And we are grateful for this grant. So if you would share a little bit about that.
Good morning, Superintendent Hoffmeister and honorable board members. It's my privilege today to talk about moving up. I am a former assistant principal, a course teacher, assistant principal, and then principal myself. So I'm very passionate about developing leadership skills because I know that the job is difficult but very rewarding. So we want to make sure we're supporting them as best we can. As Dr. Miller stated, moving up is part of a larger grant that was awarded to the TLE office. And this grant really provided OSDE the opportunity to have focused professional development for assistant principals or entry-level principals. We know that the role of the principal has changed and shifted over the past few years from manager to leadership, instructional leadership. And Moving Up was created to help bridge that gap that we have for those assistant principals by building their skills and competencies with evidence-based practices that are tried and true. Superintendent Hoffmeister's vision for the overall goal was to equip our young administrators with the support that they needed to be successful. And so we formed a focus group, and the focus group and our principal learning data research showed that this was an area that we needed to address. So we partnered, because we know it's better to have more minds in the room than one. So we partnered with several different outside education associations. One was the South Central Comprehensive Center, and the other was Egitas. And I'll speak a little bit about each of those, and then I'll introduce our last partner in a moment. So the Center of SC3 for short, and Egitas at the University of Oklahoma became our partners. SC3 began working with Jason Perez, who was the executive director of TLE. He has now since left, and I will introduce you in a moment to the new executive director, who's been here since the summer. And they met and they partnered about what do we need to address and how should it look. And they kind of were at the conception of the whole process, and they continued to support us with technical assistance as that support continued throughout the cohort. As this resulted in our partnership with Egitas, which works closely with the South Central Comprehensive Center, and they were mainly going to help us with the project management, and I will introduce those special people in a moment. During the focus group, the principals stated that they wanted to learn best from their colleagues. However, the demands of their jobs did not allow them to reach out to other administrators within their district or even in other districts around them. And they felt like that was a big need for them in their professional learning network. So we partnered with NextThought, and NextThought together designed a platform that we could use that would not only allow them to have a social context, but also to be able to interact with each other through having resources built into a toolkit that they could constantly refer back way after this support has ended. So before I move forward, we really work cross-functionally in our state agency. It's very important for us to be cohesive and for us to have a lot of different people involved. And I want to introduce to you two of the people within our agency who has been instrumental in helping us with moving up. JC Smith, who's the Executive Director of Teacher and Leadership Development, if she would just stand. And she has taken Dr. Perez's place, and she's just jumped right on board and supported us with Cohort 2 that is now also being mentioned. And then Susan Pinson, who is the Executive Director of Professional Learning, which lines up right with us, and she's a very smart lady and really gets the job done. So we appreciate your support in this effort. Superintendent Hoffmeister, I would really like you to join me at the podium so that we can honor our partners. And as I call your name, partners, please come and stand behind the podium so that we can have a photo op at the end. Okay, so from the South Central Comprehensive Center, I would like to introduce to you Sarah Hall and Dr. Donna Richardson. Both of these young ladies, come on up here. They have been instrumental in that technical assistance. They were there to help us have vision and purpose and make sure that we were using best practices as we developed this amount. And we just really appreciate your support throughout this time.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
work and research. Appreciate it.
I'll get it in front of you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we have something for you. All right. Uh-huh.
And then we have Edutos, and the person that's about to come up is Lisa Pryor, and she has been, I don't know if I'm her right hand or the left hand or the right brain or the whatever, but she's my everything. She has been instrumental in planning every single session from the smallest detail to the biggest, and she is great at it. And so I really appreciate you from Edutos being my partner in crime for the past year. It's been a pleasure. I'd just like to give you a round of applause for all your help.
Thank you very, very much. We really appreciate you. Okay, let's take a picture.
JC and Susan, would you like to join us?
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Thanks for the partnership. Thanks for making this possible. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. I'm going to let you pass these out.
All right, so I would also like to acknowledge our Next Thought partnership who helped us with that virtual platform. Today we have Malia Meadows from Next Thought to present the certificate to. Malia, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. It's been wonderful.
Thank you as well. Appreciate you. Thank you so very much. Appreciate your partnership. Yeah, let's take a picture.
I should have taken these before.
Thank you very much.
All right, our next group that we would like to acknowledge really sets moving up apart from other professional learning opportunities, and that is our coaches. We actually started development, and it seemed very traditional. We're going to provide an extended professional learning opportunity with a platform, and that's where we were going to go. And SREB sent me to Maryland and allowed me to view another program in another state. And one thing that I found unique was that they had coaches for each of their participants. And so I came back in July and said, Lisa, we have to add coaches. And we did. She made it happen. So I am very honored to introduce our coaches to you. They had a team of assistant principals and principals that they worked with, and they provided support not only during the face-to-face sessions, but also between sessions, which we know is so important. How many professional learning opportunities have we gone to, and it's been great, but we didn't know how to put it into practice. And so they're receiving the theory during the session, but they're really receiving how to implement it into their practice with our coaches' support. They go out to the schools, they walk around, they meet their students and their teachers. They really learn their context in their environment so that they can provide the most targeted assistance possible. So it's a very honored, retired teachers who, if I read you their bios right now, your jaws would drop and you would be so impressed because they are very superior in the field of education. And not only are they retired, which you think they're home like knitting, but no, they're very active. They're very active in the education community, and they're eager to share the knowledge that they have, but also to continue learning and transitioning throughout the change of education. So at this time, Charlotte Jones.
Thank you. So we're going to all stay here. Okay.
Lee Rowland.
Congratulations. Thank you for your help.
Kathy Tabor. Dr. Kathy Tabor.
Thank you so very much. Appreciate you.
Catherine Turner.
Thank you so very much.
And I would just like to mention we had two other coaches that were not here today. Dr. Linda Everett and Dr. Jason Perez were both part of our coaching staff, and they were unable to make it today, but I want to recognize them as well.
Okay, we're going to take a picture now. Okay, we'll take a picture now. Okay. Come on up. All right, here we go. All right, thank you. Thank you.
So this is really where it's all at. This is what's happening in the school buildings. It's what's affecting teachers and students' lives every day. We know that teachers have the most impact on student performance, but they need a supportive administrator to help them be successful and move forward with the practices that we know will increase performance. So it's my honor today to introduce these leaders who have sought out voluntarily to really join a group that Lisa and I have really high expectations, and we pushed them a little bit, but they did an excellent job, and I'm just really proud of them for staying with it and for being present today, and that you've really learned to implement and act out those strategies within your building so that you can see those quick wins and long-term success. Congratulations to each of you. I'm very proud of you. What I'm going to have you do is the same thing. Come up and stand behind the podium, and we'll get a picture with everyone at the end.
And we're also going to include the board members, but what we're going to do is you'll stay seated, and we're going to fan out in a V around you, and the picture's going to be taken from that direction, so you'll look that way in just a moment. Okay.
And I just wanted to state, if any of the board members want to ask questions, these representatives of this cohort have seen so many successes within their building because they have implemented these practices. And some of them are very heartfelt, and I'm just very pleased with the impact that they've had not only on their culture and climate, but with their perceptions and also their collaborative leadership abilities within their school environment, which we know helps them save time so that they can do the bigger jobs and make everyone on the same page and have that buy-in so that they're all having the same vision and mission for their school. All right, so the first person is Deidre.
I want to get
Deidre Bradley.
Get close to this.
Okay.
All right, color.
Okay. Jamila Crawford.
Congratulations. I'm going to stand right here for now.
Jennifer Cutler.
Congratulations.
Kimberly Frank.
Congratulations.
Amanda Grimes.
Congratulations.
Anita Jones. She had to step out. That's how dedicated she is. She had a meeting she had to get to. Trey Kipple. Angela Lewis. Megan Morgan. Ramel Mayu. I always mess it up. I know, I always mess it up. I always remember the first name though. Aaron Small. Rochelle Taylor. Christina Ward. Okay. These are our moving up participants. Oh, Brian, you joined us. Yay, Brian Henson. You snuck in on me.
And Sheila.
Oh, Sheila did? Okay, and Sheila Zoomer. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. Is that everyone?
All right, yes, this is
Okay.
everyone. If our
And-
partners want to join.
So if what we'll do is if you can make a tight V behind the board members and look at Annette there, and we will gather around and the board members can swivel your chair to that direction. Very good. See if that works. Here, you come right here. There we go. Okay. All right, thank you very much.
I would like to mention that we have several people that were unable to be here. We had 49 total participants. So I just want you to know that this was something that they all valued, but some of them are already on Christmas vacation and we know our holiday break. So thank you very much for giving me the honor to share with you today. Does anyone have any questions about the Moving Up program?
Is it gonna continue, and how was the
Good
people
question.
selected?
The Moving Up program has already started in the Stillwater area. We wanted to make sure that we were providing different opportunities in different regions of the state. And so we have several rural districts that are coming to Stillwater for that cohort. We have 22 participants there, and it has been very successful. And you'll get to meet them in May or April because we're going to bring them back when their cohort completes their learning.
So it's done by school district?
It's in a certain region, but anyone around the area can come to Moving Up.
And what was this region that we've?
It was the Metro Oklahoma City region. So we had participants from all over. We had Western Heights, we had Noble, we had Purcell, we had people from Cricket Oak, Putnam City. So we had people all around this area that would come. And actually in cohort 2, there were some people that learned about the program after the fact and didn't get to join the Metro group. So they're coming all the way from Yukon and Oklahoma City to Stillwater just to be a part of it. So we thought that was probably a good sign.
And then the Lead to Succeed called NISL program is in its, where's third cohort. Lawton is the third cohort for that. It's a train the trainer model. And so it started as a group in Oklahoma City, then to Tulsa area, and then Lawton. And that, I don't know what the plans are for the fourth one, but.
We'll probably look northwest
Okay.
in the state.
Okay, very good. So we're covering all of the different regions as we are able to have trainers in those areas as well. Thank you so very much. We know that it is the principal in buildings who sets the tone, and we know it is because of a high turnover of principals that we also have an increasingly high turnover in teachers who are not staying. And so we know that this is key to having a more solid and greater stability in our teacher base here in the state. So thank you for your work. All right. Thank you very much, board members. Now we'll turn our attention to item number 8. And thank you to each of you who are here today. I appreciate your service to the students and the educators that you work with every day. Thank you very much for those who made it possible. All right. Legal services now. Item 8A. Lori.
Rules.
Murphy, thank you.
Good morning, honorable members of the board. We have one rule amendment under consideration today. This is section 210-29-172, the Career Development Program for Paraprofessionals. So just to give you some context on what this program is that the rule changes within, this is one of the additional pathways to certification. And in this program, a qualifying paraprofessional or teacher assistant who has a bachelor's level college degree and experience as a paraprofessional, and additionally has passed the teaching exams, both the general education exam, the professional teaching exam for Oklahoma, and the subject area test. A paraprofessional who meets all those qualifications is eligible for provisional teaching certification so that they can be the teacher of record under that provisional certificate in either special education or early elementary education or elementary education. So that is the certificate we're talking about, the provisional certification for paraprofessionals in that program. And the only amendment proposed to this rule that governs that program is that currently the way it works is if you are a paraprofessional who qualifies for one of those provisional certificates, you have 3 years to complete professional education coursework at the higher education level. And if you complete all those coursework requirements in those 3 years and are recommended by a school district, you are eligible for a standard certificate. So how it currently works is that every single year, the participants in that program have to apply for a 1-year provisional teaching certificate for 3 years. But the proposed change makes that one single application and 3-year provisional certificate. So that is a request from the certification office that is in line with a lot of what we have seen from the Red Tape Task Force to reduce the burden both administratively for certification and on those individuals participating in the program. So that would be our recommendation, would be for approval of that amendment to a 3-year provisional certificate rather than 3 separate application processes and certificates.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, motion to approve and a second. Any comment or discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
General Baxter?
Yes.
Ms. Franks?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mr. Keating?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Superintendent Hoffmeister?
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you very much. And now we have item 9. We'll ask Mr. Clark.
Superintendent, honorable members of the board, it's probably no surprise the lawyers really know how to make a mass exodus in a room. So, thank you. On this portion of the agenda this morning, I have 3 separate requests to convene an executive session as matters of confidentiality, including to discuss pending litigation on 2 of these matters and the other pertaining to confidential student information. That would be my recommendation to convene an executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Please call the roll.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Keating?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Ms. Franks?
Yes.
General Baxter?
Yes.
Superintendent Hoffmeister?
Yes. Thank you. We will now move into executive session. Is there a motion to come in from out of executive?
So moved.
All right, motion and a second to come out of executive session. Please call the roll.
General Baxter? Ms. Franks?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mr. Keating?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Superintendent Hoffman?
Yes. All right, we are back from executive session. Let the record reflect that we did not make decisions while we were in there. Now we will turn this back over to Mr. Clark.
All right, board members, at this time, if there are any recommendations, it'd be at the appropriate time.
I move that we issue an order summarily suspending the teaching certificate and certificate number of Jeremy Kunkel.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Keating?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Ms. Franks?
Yes.
Superintendent Hoffman?
Yes. All right, thank you, motion carries. Board members, we now have any item 10, new business? None that I'm aware of. All right, and then adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that's unanimous. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you and have a happy holiday.